What is up, everybody? My name is Richard Terrell. I go by Kirby Kid, and you are currently watching our design topic of the week weekly recap or our week cap. And every week on our Discord channel, we do a design topic of the week. Now, these are game design topics, so we're really digging deep into game design, and we break it down to about a 4 or 5 day sprint. If you join us from the start of the week to the end of the week, if you participate, if you talk to us, if you interact, you really get a ton out of these weekly sessions. But if you missed it, this is a great opportunity to catch up and see what you've been missing. So we're going to just go from the top of the discussion down and work our way down the Discord. I got a lot of links and I got a lot of things here to show you. But joining me on the mic, I got my brother, Marcus. Say hey.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Cool, should be a pretty good audio level. I'll lower you a little bit. Bleach, you check the audio and we'll just move right along. And let me know if there's anybody in the Twitch chat. We got a lot to cover and not a lot of time, so I cannot waste any of it. So last week our topic was twin stick shooters, ton of fun. This week the title is Proc-Generation Z. Now, Proc-Gen or procedural generation is a general concept. It applies to both video games and not video games. You can generate all kinds of things with a set of rules, and it doesn't even have to be on the computer. Procedural generation can be all kinds of fancy things, but for the most part, when we're talking about proc-gen, especially when we frame the discussion of this week, we are focusing on Spelunky. We are focusing on level design, and level design is one of the most difficult aspects to generate. So let's just hop over to the DL wheel, explain what I mean. So level design is all the way over here. It's a stage two in complexity. So all your base level elements in the game, the level elements, the mechanics, the systems, the rules, the power ups, the enemies are all individual elements that you design independently. But when it's time to put them all together, when it's time to actually make something meaningful and a fun play experience, we are always looking at something like level design or design space in order to figure out exactly how that works. So, ooh, I am kind of floating out in midair. So in Spelunky's case, in Spelunky's case, level design is what was the procedural generation was applied to. Now, we know this is a pretty broad topic, and we know even when talking about level design, things get pretty complicated pretty quickly. But we've anticipated this, and that is why the very first lesson of Proc-Generation Z design topic of the week is. What did you put? Okay, cool. So we made this. We made this right here. It's a scale for proc-geniness. We basically said, hey, everyone comes at this with different games, with different experiences playing these kinds of things. So we're going to just put as many games on the scale as we possibly can. We are going to start with level 1, which is, a weak example of proc-gen, but it kind of is in the same relative ballpark. And as we move down the scale, we are going to hit number 5, which is basically our Spelunky, as many believe to be the golden standard of level design procedural generation. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, but Marcus, you want to run through those definitions? You want to let us know what they say?
Uh, I kind of feel like I want to, because we were doing this over the week. I feel that the scale in its totality was too much for people to kind of bite whole. So
Hmm.
if we can just kind of like start with, I think we should start with one, because that's kind of like the most
Okay.
uh, non-traditional kind of in our
Keep going.
interpretation of
Keep going.
proc-gen. Um, so if we start with number one, like random enemy AI attack patterns and other changes that alter player strategy and approach through the level. So that's the important part. We're talking about level design. So we're talking about how these how these things affect uh, the player as they move throughout the level. Uh, kind of like I think Richard might agree. Our more general takeaway
Hmm.
to this proc-gen scale is not necessarily um, its ability to be or not its progeniness,
Hmm.
but more so the effect that randomness has on the player and their
Play. Yeah.
playstyle and how they learn.
Hmm.
So in that sense, right, this scale makes a whole lot more sense. So like a random AI, right, non-determinate non-determinate enemy in a level has a completely different effect on a player and how they approach the level design
Hmm.
than a random enemy. So in
Hmm.
that sense, like this random AI would be our base floor for a proc-gen scale.
Yeah, and it's not just the AI is random. You're like, ooh, you don't know what it's gonna do. Lots of games do stuff like that. They have boss routines that vary, yada yada yada. What we're really talking about is the level itself has a configuration. moving through the level and doing the things that it requires you to do, the mandatory things or the optional things, conveys experiences, challenges, ideas. Which games have enemies that, through their randomness, push you to experience an idea like this or an idea like that? Do they push you up this path? Do they push you down that path? A better example for Mario might have been just the fact that Mario's level design is very layered. It has a lot of power ups. So if you have a fire flower and you really need that fire flower to unlock the ice cubes to get into the secret, and you lose the firepower because of whatever reason, random enemy or whatever, then you're like, I cannot access an entire part of this level. And that's kind of what we're getting at. Uh, your experience playing through the level changes. Everybody knows that when you play Mario, you lose the raccoon suit, you're like, I can't fly. And you do not know how high I can fly. That's a quote from The Office, but it doesn't matter. All right, so do you want to skip going down the numbers and kind of jump straight into the examples?
Yeah, let's go number example, number example. Yeah.
Okay, so what we did here, where's my beautiful bean footage? I'm going to type in proc, I'm going to type in this, I'm going to type in this. Here you go. So this is what we assembled. Everybody on the first day shared with us the games and the types of cool examples that they had to fulfill each item in the list. If they didn't get them all, it doesn't matter. This is just a nice warm up, a thought experience experiment. But my number one was Mario. Marcus's number one was Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty.
Liberty.
Liberty. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna do this. My number two. So we're talking about different routes through the level, different experiencing different ideas, and one easy way to do that is to have an idea per room and then shuffle the rooms. Now you think like, what game does that? Well, Mega Man 9 did that. What is this? Endless Attack. You jump in, you have an endless shuffling of these rooms that, and you fight random bosses. And the fact that you're experienced playing the level, what comes back to back, what power ups you use on one part, which abilities you needed on another part, all that is basically meaningfully shuffled around to where when you play this, you're like, that was very different. You started with the water level, I started with the fire, that kind of a thing. So when we're looking at the scale, number two, Mega Man Endless Attack definitely qualifies. Marcus, go ahead and do your example.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought we are going to. Okay, that's
Oh,
fine.
what?
I thought we were going to be on one, right? And
Oh,
then
go
when
all
we're
the way
done with
down?
one, we go to two. Yeah, yeah. Let's tackle everybody's ones.
Okay,
It's
Bleach.
yeah. The yeah.
Go ahead and read what you see on the screen and we'll go from there.
Go up. You're on two.
No! Okay.
There
Bleach,
you go.
bleach,
Yeah.
bleach. No, but it's cool that we tried to capture something in the screenshot that represents the exact part we're talking about. So while I have Cheap Cheap on mine, Bleach has Hammer Brothers.
Right. So yeah. Um. Yeah. Cheap bridge. From what we could tell, right? The cheap come up and random, come up randomly.
Mm-hmm.
So how you navigate the level is your jumps. Specifically, when I was playing it last time, Mario 35, right? When you get those great arcs to catch those 3 coins, but
Mm-hmm.
depending if the cheap is going to come down and fall on your head, which is random, you'll either have to stagger your jump or do it alter your jump to get all the coins, or skip all 3 coins. So all the Mario examples are kind of like that. The random jumping up, down, or staying the same level that the Hammer Bros do greatly affects how you tackle the situation,
Yeah.
right? So if the Hammer Bros is going to jump down to where Mario is in this screenshot, Mario's attempt to jump up and hit him would miss. And if he times it so poorly that Hammer Bros throws out a hammer in the meantime, you die, right? But if he jumps up, you'll hit the empty block and you'll be safe and you can keep on going about your way. So they really kind of influence how Mario moves to the level. Similar, Kamek is a randomizer enemy. Not that Kamek does anything random. He shoots out a blast that always homes Mario. But if it hits a block, a random enemy will come out, and not so direct, but there are some enemies that pop out sometimes that really mess up your day. Spinies in particular. If there are too many Spinies, they spawns too many Spinies on the screen. You don't have a jumpable, playable space if you don't have a Firefly to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. And Mega Man 10?
I don't know what this enemy is, but essentially all these things besides Team Fortress are going to have a basic enemy that does something that you wouldn't be able to predict necessarily. Also, how you platform in the platformer examples and move around in the more 3D examples. I like Hayden's Team Fortress 2, which is basically a tower defense.
Mm-hmm.
And in its description, the types of enemies that flood out of the gates are random. And of course, that would affect how you move throughout the
and
level
what
to counter
strategies you
them.
have to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you have something that needs the heavy or some serious firepower to take you down, you're like, everyone, stop what you're doing. You over here, me over there, that kind of thing. Yeah, Dynasty Warriors Dark Souls Enter the Breach has randomized elements for its scenarios. And Barrett said randomizer Nuzlocke. I think that's good for level one. We're seeing a lot of specific examples of how games can really force you to play this way or that way due to some unforeseen or procedurally randomized element. So level two,
yeah.
huh?
Once people got number one, they got it. The only kind of hang up was people picking uh, random enemy
Yeah,
AI that doesn't affect level design. Mostly boss fights because you're in a little arena mostly.
yeah.
And
It's not like a boss
so
fight can't
boss
be a
fights,
level.
yeah.
Like in Celeste, there are some levels where a boss is chasing you, and that is a platforming level. But most of the time, boss fights are in an arena. Nothing too special about it. It's like a Final Destination situation. We aren't counting that as level design. We can call that, for lack of a better word, right now, stage. You're on a stage and not in a level. A experience meant to convey an idea through progressing through it and overcoming the challenges that are kind of built in and describing that level. So now we're on level two.
Yep. This
Go
is the
ahead.
building blocks example, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have pre-made like prefab arenas that you just then stick end to end to make a progress traversable space, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you zoom in real well, I don't know if you can, but Richard's Mega Man 9 example is a bunch of rooms stitched together randomly to make a course.
Yeah. So you can see where they would stitch them too. You can see how they stitch them too. Some are in a loop, so if you go up one way, you come down the other. Some are like a vertical loop. You go up one way, you go down the other, or up one way and down the other. And then there's just horizontal hallways that otherwise would connect them. And here's your boss hallways here, right here, with a little lead in, a little boss, a little exit, so on and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, now so the first game we're like, oh, the way you play is what's important about levels design. It's what the game is. It's how the experience is conveyed. And now we're talking about, okay, we're going to take chunks of those experiences, even if they branch or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but we're really going to chop it up into big old chunks and then have you flow through it differently, right? Bleach picked Mini Metro. Mini Metro, if the things that pop up are randomized, they are. But the shape that they are and the location is different. So depending on how that AI decides to put this here, that there, you really have to move around your roads to accommodate. That's the whole point of Mini Metro. Cuphead, classic example. And by classic, I mean it looks like it's classic, but it's a relatively new game. You go into this boss, he throws a die. Depending on what die you get, you have to fight a very quick boss, a mini of boss, right? It's not quite a mini boss. I guess you just call them mini bosses. But the order that you fight them is random. You don't even have to fight them all because all you need to do is successfully get through this little dice roulette game that he's kind of trapped you in, and that's a classic example of okay, chunks. We'll just shuffle around the chunks. Leap Day, one of my favorite platformers. It's a different level every day for multiple years in a row, and I played tons and tons of these levels. So fun, so good. But essentially, the chunks are like Mega Man, one screen to two screen large chunks, and then they just shuffle them around. You won't see the same chunk until you play a significant portion of the game, like for many many hours, but you can still tell the chunks.
Uh, the Cuphead example,
Yeah.
I think kind of illustrates kind of what the kind of problem we had in our defining and people trying to figure out what fits in level two and what doesn't. Um, Cuphead has. I think initially people were like, "Oh, let me find something that is random, right, or randomized, and then try to find what level that falls in the scale." So Cuphead example, like you have a die that rolls, right? That's like the cliche definition of what is random, right? So you're like, oh, in the level, a die rolls, and then its roll depends on how the levels are stitched together. So if you go back to my Lost Woods example, go back to
You
the
got it.
Lost.
There you go.
This one takes a little bit of creativity, right, to put in scale two. Um, So this one in particular doesn't have a computer on the back end handling your randomization, right? This is what we're kind of getting at before with the scale one, uh, that there doesn't need to be a creator behind the glass, right? There doesn't have to be intent behind uh, the randomness. And in this instance, we're gonna in the Lost Woods, you have a bunch of up, left, and rights you can do, and depending on which quadrant you're in, that up, left, or right will take you to another area, or you'll fail and loop back to the beginning. So until you know the sequence, uh, left and rights are arbitrary. You're basically winding up in a different level section each time. So in that sense, the player would be the uh, the progenitor, right? The player is creating the type of level he'll be experiencing by picking left, right, or up and down.
Because
And
honestly,
you get, yeah,
yeah, what's the difference between a dice determining your random seed, and Perlin noise on a computer determining random seed, or you having no idea what you're doing and just picking random directions in your controller and the game responding? There's little difference, especially when we are looking at the context of the end result is the sequence in which you move through these things for you, for other players, or even for players who know what they're doing. It's pretty different.
especially since if we're ultimately worried about how players interpret random spaces and how they learn random spaces, right? If you really want to get granular in the sense that it kind of breaks down. You're like, oh, well, if you don't have enough control over Mario, right, just playing a normal platform, the normal levels, even without randomness, your outcomes you wouldn't be able to predict your outcomes because you don't have enough control over Mario. So a jump that is three blocks wide, you will mess up because you hit the jump button too early, even though you thought you hit it at the same time as the other time you made it right. So if you don't have enough control over Mario, can seem random to the player. Um,
Yeah,
but
especially when you're talking about again how people learn. When you're learning
right,
things, your perception is a huge part of it. You observe something, you have an idea of it, then you're actually looking at the idea in your head rather than the thing on the screen. When you anticipate something, that's you looking ahead at what's in your head. When you're learning something and putting it into deep long-term memory, that memory is like temporarily taken away from you and gone. And all those steps and the actual biochemical reactions that are happening in your head to produce those memories and those neurons firing, like all that has it's its own kind of randomness, right? It's
so
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, so that's why I like the level design, kind of like making sure it's level design because player action, player performance is highly variable. Until you get a player to perform uh, with consistency, it'll be highly variable. But levels, right? Level chunks, level elements, those things are not just random pixels slopped on the screen. They already have definition, they already have form, they already have purpose. So the combination of those things in the level and the randomness will be much more easy to define than something like player performance. So that's why all these level examples are really great. Like you could take the different left and right turns in the Lost Woods and just stitch them together. It will look not too dissimilar from this mini Metro map, right? It's just a bunch of left and right turns and connections, right? Nodes and paths on the graph, right? So
And picks the cat. You go deeper and deeper into like a almost like an infinite zoom into tiny versions of the level, and then it becomes big, and you go into another tiny version. Turtles all the way down. I hear there's a randomized mode, so that's why Zara picked that one. It's a Neko Dancer classic roguelike style game. So it probably
it might
shouldn't
be a
be in
three.
two. This should probably be in three,
Yeah.
three or three plus. But we'll see. Like
Another thing a lot of people did is they came up with examples, and then if they came up with five examples, they made them fit all five of the scale, even though there might have been overlap of one number.
yeah,
That's
like
okay.
you have two twos, boy. Um,
A lot of people had a lot of threes.
Crash Bash. This looks like a multiplayer game, less about level design and more just a multiplayer arena where the players make their own challenges. So, this isn't really what we're looking for in terms of level design, but the experience is something interesting to compare. And a lot of games I've never played before or heard of, so that's cool too. Learning a lot.
That's
Um,
cool. Yeah, you see
yeah.
what Dungeon of the Endless and just assume if it's in a level two, it's like these other games where it just stitches together
Yeah.
pre-made levels into a random sequence.
So now we're getting a little bit more granular. This is when things really start to get their randomized, distinctive feature, right? Before, even though it's varied, people are like, yeah, yeah, but the main point is X, Y, Z, or the main difficulty of this game is, after the randomness happens. When we get to three and beyond, you're like, whoa, the whole allure and point of a lot of these things is that it's randomized. Mario Maker stage in Smash Brothers is one of my favorite stages. There is so much variation to this. It's stupid. So, in the true spirit of Mario Maker, the hand comes up, puts the stuff in, and every time you play, it's different. Yes, there are chunks to it, smaller chunks, but the whole idea is they can actually move around with a lot of variability. It's kind of insane. And then you play Smash Brothers, so that's even better. Some stages are floating platforms, some are walk-offs, some are slanted. It's nuts. Likewise, you see a lot of games down well, as they might call a rogue light. These little chunks are often repeated, but where the enemies are and what sequence you get them is not. Where the power ups are is not. So you're like, okay, okay. I see more granularity here. Go ahead and talk to them about Excite Bike, and then
The
we'll
sci-fi,
speed through the
you're always
recipes.
on the same loop. The loop is always the same, but the ramps and water hazards and things like that are randomized each time you pick the level. I think they said there were somewhere around 200 combinations for this track in Mario Kart 8.
Wow. Hades, a new one. Roguelite, like Dark Cloud, randomized dungeons. Shirin, a classic roguelike game brought to consoles. People like this one. I played it on DS. It's a roguelike. Hmm. Yeah, a lot of threes. Dream Quest, Wizard of Legend, Dead Cells, Diablo 2, FTL, Diablo, Risk of Rain. So now we got to take it one step further, right? We just don't want chunks in the level to be rearranged. We want a finer degree of control. We're getting like finer and finer. Minesweeper, every square is a meaningful thing, and every square is generated procedurally. Mario Kart Home Circuit, tell them.
Mario Kart Home Circuit kind of doubles it up, kind of similar to my Lost Woods example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you make the course, you make the track by doing a series of arbitrary, not random, arbitrary left, rights, up, and down. And all it has to do to the only thing it's asking for is that you complete the loop eventually. Uh, but even beyond that, what appears in the chorus right is affected by reality. Right? There's a lot of home circuit Twitch clips of cats running across the course, the
Mm-hmm.
kids getting in the way, or something falling off the table. But even beyond that, like Mario's on running on a real floor. The floor has bumps, edges, and notches that affect how Mario drives. So all those things
Yeah, it's like a
kind of
big
influence
dice roll.
Mario's experience.
The
Yeah. So it's
universe
all
is the dice. And even if you play in the same place, lots of things could happen. But yeah, the complexity of life really coming into play there. Pikmin 2, as Bleach described before, the dungeons in this game are generated to a pretty fine degree. It's not just level chunks that you see, and it's not just like. Um, oh, one distinct factor with level 3 is that the challenges and the ideas created from the randomness, it's of a low complexity. It's just kind of like, whoa, enemies are over here. Whoa, enemies are over there this time, but you still play the game the same way. You do whatever you do to those enemies. It's getting a little bit more sophisticated here, like racing on the track's more sophisticated. The placement and the arrangement of enemies in Pikmin 2 is a little bit more sophisticated than what you'll find in Sharing the Wanderer. And we have other games like Civ 5, Age of Empires, Bomberman, Battle Brothers. So yeah, in this level 4, we're really looking at we want some more meaningful interactions from this randomness, and we want the challenges to be a little bit more than just like, oh, deal with all the enemies because you're super strong. We want it to have some texture. We want it to have some ideas come out of this, and then those ideas be generated procedurally. So these games are a little bit more sophisticated. But then we finally hit level 5, and the idea
I'll read you
is,
my
oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll read you the people are asking about the difference between 4 and 5 in the Discord over the course of the week, and this is what I basically settled on. Uh, you can think of Scale 5 as the holy grail of Proc-Gen. All the major elements of design, enemies, levels, power-up secrets, etc., are not only randomized, but the subtle variance of each element has a noticeable effect on your play.
Basically, we want the coolest games possible, coolest gameplay you can think of, generated procedurally. That's the goal, right? A lot of people have admitted that ProcGen is not as good as handcrafted. I don't care if what we have is not as good. The goal, the thing everyone should aspire to, is like we want to make the coolest experiences we can, the coolest experiences possible. And we also, if we're going to go the proc gen route, we also want that to be part of the process. So we have games like Spelunky. People love Spelunky. Binding of Isaac. A lot of randomized elements. Not I haven't played much of Binding. Nuclear Throne, which Nuclear Throne just kind of like battle arenas, especially when you have a gun, you kind of obliterate everything by being chicken around the corner and shooting when they can't shoot you. Kind of like Enter the Gungeon in a lot of ways. So really,
Yeah, I would have put that at four.
there's no
But
level
Zara fought me.
there's no level design in Nuclear Throne. It's just random shaped rooms, right? And the shape of the edges hardly matters. Spore, don't know much about Spore, but come on, it's Spore. The whole something is generated procedurally from the characters to their animations to lots of other fun stuff. And I guess at some point you play something like an RTS type thing. I don't know.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Rogue Legacy, 2D side scrolling, stitch together room thingies with randomized enemies and other kinds of factors. Your character you play yourself is randomized. You have different attributes and you can't really control that. That's another wrinkle to Rogue Legacy. Dungeon crawl, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So there are not a lot of games that even attempt to do level ideas through Proc-Gen. Some of these examples here probably don't fit. Maybe Rogue Legacy is the only other good fit, and then there's Spelunky. So that just kind of shows us the entire spectrum of what we're talking about here with Proc-Gen. A lot of examples, but thinking about each one specifically is important. Wrapping your head around this thing, right? So yeah, Discord channel is live. I put this Monster Mansion game from Street Pass, just trying to find the most
Yeah.
obscure examples ever. Bomberman was a cool one. Link to the Past, these are some cool ones. We took out Borderlands because it was only in the weapons, and we're really looking for something that's communicated with the proc-gens applied to level design. Blah, 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 more examples. Everyone warm up. Ring Fit. I didn't know it had a randomized thing. Hey, this game right here. I was just looking at this game. Oh well.
Yeah, keep talking. Nobody dies. Yeah.
No, maybe
Or 20XX?
the one above it. But anyway, we'll figure it out later.
Should be the
Then
key.
Dwarf Fortress.
Explanations are below.
Okay, so 20XX looks like it has a lot of just. Well, let's just not get into it. It looks messy, but because it's messy, it's probably generated procedurally because it just looks like a lot of stuff was put on there. Keep talking. No explodes. Okay, cool, cool. So people adding things to the scale, asking questions, putting things in different places. Okay, cool. Now we get to number two. So if you want to catch up on exactly what the assignments are throughout the week, one was just to find the 5 games, but now we're on day two, right? All that was on day one. Now we're on day two, as Marcus calls Rock the Proc. So we started playing Spelunky. So get good, get mad, screen cap the stuff that you find that's interesting, tell a story about how you got through things, find cool examples of stuff, and just share it in the channel. There's a free version of Spelunky which you can download as well. Here, Spelunky Classic. It's just on Game Maker. You can see it here as well. It still works, right? Whichever way, get your hand on some Spelunky. And the challenge was for people to identify things that are meaningful and share it. So we got a whole thread. We got a whole thread of this stuff. Oh,
Yeah, it loses my position when I do that too. It goes to the exact same spot.
why would it do
You're
that?
way up. You're way up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. So yeah, Marcus took a screenshot of a long fall, no C, almost died, got lucky, right? Spelunky has a bit of a camera problem, but they let you look up or down in order to stretch it a little bit, like Yoshi's Island. And you should look before you leap, but a lot of people don't. Sometimes you get lucky, most of the time you die.
So I think you probably want to talk about just how our general process is over here on the Discord.
Mhm.
Um, like to have a lot of things that we can document, right? Screenshots and videos tell the most, right? Pictures worth 1,000 words. So more so than you talking just about your experience, it would be great if that was accompanied by a screenshot or a specific example, things like that. Those are the things we can categorize and document and then review later. But personal anecdotes are more how we refer to the person who tells it, and instead of
Hmm.
how it reflects on the game.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, this whole day two, uh, I'm documenting and having other people see what I think is interesting about the game, whether or not it ultimately is going to help me or not, or serve our ultimate purpose. Who knows? But you're like, hey, these are the things I found interesting.
yep. It's just exactly what you said. One application of the philosophy that we have here, a design oriented, which is precise language, um, concrete examples, and clear communication, stuff like that. So yeah, pictures do say it worth a thousand words. Instead of going on Twitter and just being like, "Spelunky is so good, it's so good," or "Spelunky is so bad," you're like, neither of those statements tell me anything. I want to see it. I want to know what you think. I want to know with more and more and more detail exactly what's going on. So this is our attempt to just start that process, right? You're seeing it live. People are participating with it live. Um, People sending videos. It's great. After 2 years of not playing Speedlunky, only ever managing to get to World 2, I've done my best runs to getting to 4. Good job, Tony. Tony taking pictures of formations, right? We did this also in the chat. We have some cool screenshots. Let's see, twitter.com/design oriented. See, in the chat, we were playing 4 Speedlunkies at once. And definitely a lot of fun talking about it, doing the research together. Like, if you're the kind of person who knows that it's good to do research and you're kind of bored doing it, I don't know how much more fun I can make it. We're talking, we're 4x the game than you're normally used to playing, and then everyone's working together. So, yeah, Spelunky often has these little sections that are carved out of the, just shoved into the world. And this is a perfect example of like a room from Proc-Gen level 2 where they have chunks and they're just like, well, here's a chunk, here's a chunk, here's a room, here's a room. There are elements in Spelunky that are preset, what we call handcrafted, and this little crypt is one of them. The stuff in the crypt may be randomized, but ultimately I think every crypt is gifted to have the crystal skull, which is highly valuable. But when you grab it, the ghost comes out immediately, I think. More screenshots, right? That's a nice symmetrical formation, or near symmetrical. This wall damsel setup is one that I've seen before as well. Cool vines, more cool vines, and then we went on to day three, right? So what was day three all about, Marcus?
Well, let me check. Let me check.
Because we got Akamarik here telling us some of his run stories. He actually took a picture of the arrow coming straight towards his face. uh,
Day three, entitled what? Jamming out to Proc Rock. I thought that was pretty good. Proc Rock, Prog
Progressive
Rock,
rock. Yeah, I
Proc Rock.
like it. I like it.
Um, Same thing, right? We're trying to encourage people to take documentation, which means take screenshots primarily. Um, Things are dangerous down there in the depths, and we here at DO Co. are looking for experienced speedlunkers to write the best tips guide on how to navigate safely down. So any tips or tricks, rules of thumb, or heuristics that you've developed to keep Speedlunker from meeting his early demise are welcome here. So basically, like instead of just interesting things, I wanted a glimpse on how you thought about how you would traverse, navigate, plan to move through Speedlunker levels, right? So I need words and pictures,
Hayden,
ideally.
you don't scare me, you evil ghost. Who says this ghost is evil? I did. Interesting setups documented by Hayden. Interesting objects, right? This whole Cali thing is a room. Can you see it now very clearly? There's like a box that surrounds the whole area. And Cali needs to be on this little sacrifice table, and that needs to be elevated so like you can almost see where the game code was like, ah, perfect. Bloop, and plops it right in there. So yeah, part of what we're getting at is a lot of times people talk purely on emotion. What we do at DO here is we work things up very clearly, very specifically. We have the wheel, we identify the parts, we slowly list them, we name them, we categorize them, we catalog them, and then we're better able to talk about the higher level stuff once we've done all that work. So even without trying, without thinking too much or needing to prove everything. We're just finding screenshots and talking about it. That should be the base of all of your game's communication. Being able to play something, see something, and just say, hey, neat. I wonder what that is. Talk about it. Sometimes we ask people in our Discord or online what they think about something and they have nothing to say. Like, how can you have nothing to say? You have to, you feel things, find the words for those feelings, articulate them, share them. It's a must if you want to be a good designer.
So the power of these examples, right? So people are just talking about tips. If you go up to this, the rope, if you uh, land on spikes from a low rope, right? If you move slowly down and up on spikes, you don't get killed.
Uh-huh.
It's a fairly standard, right?
Tipo.
Yeah, typo, right? But because the screenshot, it's encapsulated with level design, right? And that's what we're ultimately trying to get. Uh, we're trying to highlight with this deep dive.
Hmm.
So the tip is surrounded by the level design. So we can potentially come back. I think what we learned with the Sonic game breakdown is that all the days of the week should help each other out, should build on each other. Um, so basically, what you're interested in Spelunky for day two should influence the tips that uh, value, the tips that you deliver, right? The tips that you tell on day three, right? Um, and then you see upcoming day four. These will also influence what people will ultimately uh, share on day four.
Yep.
So if you're wondering, like, oh, what do these things have to do with level design? Like, oh, it's coming,
Yeah.
it's coming.
Like levels are built out of small moments. Small moments are built out of individual interactions. Individual interactions are always built out of some combination of player elements, player mechanics, level elements, and enemy elements in this case, because this game has enemies. That's it. So we gotta find. We're getting a sense of like what things people find most interesting too. Like, look, it's a arrow trap, an arrow trap. Look, it's an arrow trap, an arrow trap. You're like, yep, arrow traps are interesting in Spelunky, um, and we
And I
can.
think if you saw my day one, I did highlight an arrow trap as something that was interesting, and now I'm highlighting how to beat that interesting thing with my tips.
This was your day one. 5 blocks length for an arrow shot on the original Spelunky. You also had some. I died for having fun. Skilled the first arrow, manic on the high. I didn't see the second arrow and I died. That's a poem. That is straight poetry right there. Um, okay, so then another cool thing about this progression is what is Proc-Gen spectrum? Now we defined it and we, um, you know, reorganized our thoughts by combing through our gaming history and figuring out where things sorted out. Two, play it. Just play it. Share what you have fun. Share what you think is interesting. Just recognizing that there are parts within the parts, right? It's not just like Spelunky. It's all one gigantic experience. It's so great. It's no, this part's cool. This part sucks. I hate darkness. This guy's funny. Like you got to start breaking it down. And now we're talking about the strategies, which is where the gameplay starts to really become more and more apparent. This is interesting, and this is what you can do about it. This is not interesting. I hate this because I couldn't do something about it. We're linking in a very sort of efficient, elegant way the mechanics design analysis with the level design, right? Which is what can I do? What can I do? Skill floor, seal ceilings. This is hard to do. This is the best easy tip. Like all of those are kind of tacitly inside of that task. So that's what we did on day
Three,
3.
Wednesday,
Man,
Wednesday.
these days were just blazing. So yeah, got a lot of examples. Mark is taking a
Yeah,
lot.
that's the
Oh,
yeah, that's the other part, right? Doing this took some time, right? Took some effort, and that's the other part. You just can't uh, casually do deep dives into a game. Like, oh, here's my
who casually
experience with
deep
a couple of
dive?
sentences, right? But it
Maybe
was
those.
fun. Like we said before, we were in the chat just playing and talking to each other, and then whenever any of us, right, found something interesting or found a connection, so someone would yell, "Screen cap, screen cap," and then we put it into the Discord
Hmm.
channel.
That's a good point. You don't even need to play Spelunky. People are like, oh, I don't have a PC. I don't have the game. Doesn't matter. We're in the chat. You talk to us. You watch us play. You have the screen cap. Just take it straight off your phone or your computer. Pop it in. That's legit. That's work. Okay. Talk about this, Marcus.
Oops, what am I looking at? Okay, that's day four. Yeah, I previewed day four, but this is basically what day four is going to be next. So we're doing day four.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, day four, which we lovingly call the prognosis. Oops, sorry, the prognosis in general. Basically, expanding the kind of uh, form and function we see in Spelunky to the greater world of side-scrolling video games. Right. Um, I beg with my peoples. Pictures, pictures, pictures. We need examples. Pictures lead by example. In those pictures, find level arrangements that have similar level designs in other games. One pick for Spelunky reference and another for the comparison. So, in my example is what Richard's showing there. It's a skinny one block high thing with a treasure in the corner. And then I'm like, oh, one block high things is in Super Mario Bros. 3 as well. Right? You're like, oh, uh, you run under this block formation, and it doesn't show it well, but this Fireflower should be underneath the
Underneath.
note block and not on top of it. So
Okay.
essentially, you have to go underneath this one block thing to get the treasure. And the danger in the Bros 3 is that big fish coming to gulp you up. And the danger in the Spelunky thing is the arrow that you have to get past.
Nice. Just like Mario, Speedlunker can run across one block gaps. Jump too close, get hit by left trap. Jump too far, take fall damage.
Yeah, you're still in tips. You're still in tips, Richard. But that was a cool one.
The
People
Mario
actually
thing was the
responded to
Mario
my
thing.
inquiry.
Did I teleport back up again?
No, you just didn't get there yet because I previewed what we were going to do.
Oh, that's what you meant preview.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's a lot of examples for you, for anyone to kind of sift through. But here we go. Here a daily challenge. Yeah, you always say check the daily challenges for your daily challenge. So here's another example. Mario World, baby. That plus this. Wait, no, no. Yeah.
But like, is that like visually? Like, can you just see like how those are similar, like enough visually? Oh, look.
Gold in the
Even in Tony's
corner.
description, right? Evaluate the risk versus reward. There's a chance to die in here, all for a minute amount of gold.
Mm, all for a minute
And
amount of
then,
gold.
and then look at the bottom right corner of the Mario world. Like, yeah, look, there's a dragon coin.
Like, is it really worth it? You're like, well, I'm getting it, and you die anyway. These shells
But you have the
cause
kind of like
problems.
the ant farm like maze
Yep.
structure,
Yep.
underground setting. Oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of Mario World.
Yeah. Two pillars and a death. Two pillars and some death. Nice comparison. Here's another one. So in Mega Man 9, certain enemies sometimes disguise themselves as very alluring pickups, power ups. And in this case, what is that one compared to?
It's a skeleton, yeah. That's alive, a living skeleton, you
Oh,
can
so
say.
this looks like it's a thing that won't hurt you, but then it's
Yeah.
alive and it hurts you. And you have to check them by getting close to them. Mammoths have red Koopa Troopa behavior. They stay stuck there, so take advantage and whip them or whittle them away, whatever. You're like, oh, icy world, red Koopa Troopa causing problems.
That's a funny level.
This is
I call them a mammal
falling
swarm.
on the things from high up that to break your fall. Crikeys like going down well, you fall on objects to keep your combo or land on enemies to break your fall.
Oh, I didn't
Very
see that one.
very cool. This one I started to love these. I'm like, there's a fish in water. Look, there's a fish in water. I have another one. Fish in water. Freaking out. I just think it's so hilarious how normal that is in real life and how rare that is in games. Here's a boxy formation with goodies on the inside. What did I compare that to? I had a lot of them that kind of got out of order, but we'll just
Yeah,
keep
we
moving.
started spamming. That reminded me of the rope, the vine from Bros 3.
Oh, right here, the tree versus the vine. Um,
Okay, yeah, that's what you're about the game.
Here's the
Yeah.
boxy formation with like little chink chunks inside. I think that's what I was going for one of these. But yeah, here's a danger box too. Like, look, there's bob bombs. You're using them to break through the wall. There was at one point Tony was trying to break through a place in the ice section by timing bomb tosses and stuff like that's just like this. This is like this. Here's the two ladders. This is the one I was trying to get the vines for up here. the super long vines that carry you out of danger, and like in Spelunky, whether a bowling ball is coming to crush you or whatever. I'm like, I like that they have really long ladders right here. Here's
Oh yeah, yeah.
going into a cave of death with a fish. Oh, here's the random Tetris looking shapes. That was the ice palace in general. Random Tetris looking. We don't have a good screenshot of it, but they're there. Here's spiders ready to drop on you. Oh, by the way, this is a cool gameplay idea. The spiders den, just tons of spiders, basically. Monkey standing on the edge of something. It's King of Swing. Here's where Tony was blowing up in the wall to get access to both this little helper dude and the damsel, right? And he was actually blowing his way through this. I'm like, oh, that's just like Mario kicking the bombs at this thingy and being very careful about it. Um, this is a cool one too. This little blue gem, if you try to get it, there's like a hidden spring pad here that shoots you up and away from it. That's just like this stupid, alluring ring pickup. And if you try to, it was like, oh, ring, you get bounced by the spring, you get knocked backwards. It's very similar setup. Death and lava, death and lava, lava pit, lava pit. Uh, oh, here's the random Tetris looking pieces, right? Just like that Bros 3 level.
That's funny.
And then I equated, somebody equated New Super Mario. Oh, so this level in New Super Mario Brothers is one where you have to use the bombs carefully in order to get all this stuff. It's kind of like using the mines that are placed in this level to break through stuff. It's also blue, points for color matching. Similar to the grabbers in Sonic, but not as threatening. Spider Den, giant spiders are harder to because they're waiting for you. So I liken that to this. You go in this area, you're like, if I walk under any of those, they're gonna start busting this place up, and it's gonna be dangerous. Same with the spiders. If you walk under any of
Mm.
these, they're gonna start busting this place up, and it's gonna be dangerous. I liken the using bombs and stuff to get through to like this Mega Man secret where if you have the that's so cool how it says flame and it's dangerous or flammable. I never even thought that's why you use the flames on it. I'm just like somebody show me that I use flames on this. Great.
Yeah, yeah. We're told
we were
beforehand.
we were
That's being
kids.
figured out.
Yeah. Spider hanging on the ceiling ready to drop. Ladders and everything. That's super similar.
Oh
Super
yeah, that's a
similar.
nice
You know
Mega
what I
Man
mean?
reference.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, boulder coming to crush stuff. You touch it, things get dangerous. Like the key, you grab it, things get dangerous. Ah, this is so good. Look at that. Look at that pose. Mega Man X. So Mega Man X is so funny. That pose is perfect. It's hilarious. But yeah, that mech suit's from the game. Vertical auto scroll makes blind jumps dangerous. Like Spelunky, play must wait for the camera to pan down. Yeah, Spelunky you do it manually, and Shovel Knight you have to kind of like wait. Hayden circled some spikes under thingies, some breakaways, some arrow traps, long gaps, horizontal areas. He's comparing a basic layout, which is pretty cool, right? The jaggediness of the cave compared to like the jaggediness of this ice and ship. You can ride the boulder in Spelunky. So I was like, riding on cars. So forgot you could do that in Mario Land. And then we started doing some cool, crazy stuff, right? So that was day 4.
Hmm.
Now, we are coming nearly to the end of this broadcast. A lot of the information is here for you to see. Um, but one thing that we'd love to do on Friday is give people a little bit more of a meaty challenge to tackle from Friday through until just about now when we start streaming. That's the basic idea. And this time, we looked at Spelunky Classic and we decided to play around with the level editor. So I'll show you that right here. First, I will kill myself. Cool. So I used Seed Monkey. I got a seed. I found an interesting level, and then I decided to 668580. It's probably just called Temp. That's the one I made. Dude, 6685. 80 space LV2. It's the second level in the seed, and that's the seed number if you want to play it for reals. Okay, so this is a real level. This is a level that actually appears in the original classic Spelunky as a procedurally generated experience, right? So you can play the game yourself and get the same seed if you want to play what it feels like to get to this in level 2. Seed is 668580, just like it says on the screen. But we looked at this and we're like, okay, Proc Gen, people love it. People say it's got all kinds of pros and cons, but mostly they talk about the pros and I talk about the cons. I want to I want to really get at this idea of just how much of a gap there is between the procedurally generated challenges here in Spelunky versus what a handcrafted level would do. So we use the editor in Spelunky to handcraft this level. And like I didn't have a ton of time, right? That's just how it goes. It was something for everyone else to do and think about. But I have this to show. Oh, this is my practice room. Cool. So this is the level I came up with. Same starting area, right? I removed some extra junk that would just happen to be there. You go up over the top. How can I do the two side by side? Doesn't matter. Before there were no webbing nets here, and then I was like, well, I like this area, this spider, and I want players to see it and go, is it worth going up there? So I put a bomb very clearly in the top left corner. I'm like, it is worth going up there if you need bombs. I also started the player off with 0 bombs and 0 ropes because game design, right? If you Mario doesn't start off with all his power ups, and neither does Metroid, and I don't even know why Metroid can't crawl. But those are questions we'll never know the answer to. Go down a section. I love webbing. It's one of the most dynamic, unique level elements in the entirety of Spelunky, and all of platformers for that matter. There's very few platforming elements that operate as weirdly as this. It traps up enemies, but it doesn't hold up spiders. It holds up players, but they can wiggle to break loose out of it, and it holds items. And then when you break it, the items drop, and you can burn it too. I think, at least in the new Spelunky, you can set it on fire. You can also destroy it with bombs. Pretty cool stuff. So I love webbings. I put some here, and I make it to where it's slow to get up underneath this, right? Um, you go over here, and I want to show off the fact that some enemies get caught in webbing and some don't. So classic spider drop, mess up your day, but I put them further back so you can see them, and I call your attention upwards with this guy. And the little hazards just to make sure you're paying attention. But if you go in the upper route, you get a rope, and then that's the first time you can get a rope. But then you have this area here. You can use a speed lunky, run across the gaps and not fall in, or you can jump. If you go in this upper area and try to grab all the gold, which is really encouraging you to do it with actual hand placed gold, and you can see it kind of makes a nice little aesthetic like low money, biggest money, low money, bigger. So no matter which way you come across it, the goal is to grab that thingy, right? Now, if I really wanted to, I would put like some lava right here, and then the platform with the gold skull would be on a fall away platform. So if you don't grab it quickly enough, it'll just fall and melt. I'm not that mean. I got plenty of other things to play with. Um, so I love this here. It's a bat cave, right? Gameplay idea, bat cave. You know why? Because there's tons of bats here. Very simple. But the bats get caught up in the webbing as you go down. So bats are really annoying to deal with, and the best way to deal with them when they're above you is either run left and right or shoot up a rope. Rope is precious because I took them all away from you. You have to figure out how you're going to deal with the bats. One way you do it is by changing your position to make them fly into these nets. That's super fun. And then I just kept going crazy with the webbing. But as you can see up here, treasure trove, right? How do you get into this? Well, you need bombs, right? And the reason why it's so interesting is bombs are rare for one. Two, if you don't have sticky bombs, you have to time your bombs and blow it up there, or do something kind of crazy like bomb left, go into the bat cave, go up and right, and bomb right, right. Like that's how you get up there with the alternate option. Yeah. So this is lots of money, and this is more money than this stuff down here. Also, you have to get this skull to the goal. So this is a nice, balance of risk reward for exploring this area, and then you can tell it's completely out of the way, right? So I think it's better to have rewards and challenges like coins and stuff on the edges of the map instead of enemies. Because if you see an enemy there, you're like, I'm not going over there, and I have no reason to. But if you see money, you're like, ooh. So right here, spiders drop down. It looks dangerous over here. If you have bombs, you can drop down even further. But let's go the normal route. Let's say you skipped all that. You go down here, nice simple area, snakes, whatever, and then you look at this area. It's hard to see below you, but you see a lot of webbing. You see to your right, up ropes, naked ropes. Ropes are really precious in this game because when you make it hard for people to climb all the time, like you don't just give them default ropes, they have to do all kinds of other things to get up, including jumping on enemies, which is something you can do in this level. And that whole gameplay is more pronounced when you take away the player's ropes than if you give them the ropes, right? Makes sense. So if you really want to risk it, there's a rope here. I probably should have put like I can do it right now. I don't have to probably anything, right? So you'll if you disturb them a little bit, you get a little gold. If you go all the way, you'll unleash the spider. Then they're just hopping out of here like a crazy house, right? That's nuts. So you like to panic, you can go down. Again, hard to see where it's down here, but you can clearly see that um, the way I did this formation is there's no way to fall lower than this without landing on a net. So like, boom. One of those classic movie moments where you jump blind, like, and you look down, and you're like, there's a dead body, skull, spider, whatever. So I put another thing over here. Again, putting money on the edges makes more sense than putting money in the middle and the enemies on the edges. Perfect example. Come over here, nice low area, just a net for no reason. Damsel, you to get up here you need a run jump. So testing your ability to run jump. Otherwise, you have to use a rope or bomb. You don't have a lot of bombs. Then there's this area down here. So you see this, you're like, bombs! Those are so important for getting lots of money. And you're like, but how do I fight this guy? You can just whip him and fight him in this small space. Probably going to die because that's just, these spiders take off 2 health each. Most people are not going to want to do that. But if you study, you're like, wait a minute. I could come out behind him and push this rock on him and crush him. Or if I had a bomb, I would just throw a bomb down there and kill him. And you have to kill a big spider to get the sticky bombs anyway. So one of these guys is going to be a challenge for you. You can put the damsel back, doesn't really matter. Um, right here, you have the arrow trap, and if you have no ropes, you're like, what am I supposed to do? You can't. It's really hard to like trip this thing and drop and then avoid getting hit. That's the whole design of it. But you can use the damsel. Again, you'd have to take her up here, and now you're platforming up with this thing instead of down, which you normally do. Different challenge, unique way of using this resource. Then you move over here. Again, another spider. You could whack him and try to get out, and then you could jump on him repeatedly in this hole. The spider can't get out, right? I just now realized. But it is still dangerous, and if you get this, you get the climbing mitt. And once you get the climbing mitt and you get the paste, you can climb up the wall and go up this area backwards, right? So in case you left the money up here, you're like, oh, I want to go and still get it. I have time. And you go backwards. Or you should have gotten the bombs at the beginning. Like there's a real circularity to this design. But if you do manage to come up behind it like this, you can push it, and then you can just go wild with the bombs, kill stuff, change the level around, use your ropes, whatever. But that's essentially just me tinkering around with the basic layout that the randomizer gave me and the theme of spider webs, spiders, and bats. Let's see how it plays. Oh, well, so I'm not supposed to start down here, but this is what it looks like. So let's stop that.
These blinks out of existence.
So there, I'm putting the door there. I think it was, yeah, I don't know where it was originally. I don't care. Yeah, so any final words, Marcus, as I show this off?
That's about it. I think we initially came up with Spelunky Proc-Gen Week. We wanted to show that kind of how people interpret spaces in Spelunky that are similar to spaces in other non-Proc-Gen other non-Proc-Gen games. Because of the randomness of Spelunky, they interpret similar spaces differently, and then maybe even beyond that, like maybe that kind of different interpretation isn't always for the better. But then we kind of found like to just do all the grunt work to get that, get the comparisons made, and for both Spelunky and the other games that took up the whole week. So basically kind of gives you an insight. Like if you actually want to make a real in-depth comparison, it takes a lot of work, and we didn't even get there an entire week.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, so a lot of the analysis you saw on our old YouTube channel, which I'll show you here. By the way, some of our best and detailed analysis are on our YouTube channel, twitch.tv, yep, YouTube slash design oriented. I have a video on Spelunky made a long time ago called talking about ghosting. We have a video on Proc-Gen a long time ago. Um, we also have some analysis videos like breaking down Rhythm Heaven, Megamix, and breaking down Snakebird. So those are super deep dives, and just gathering the information of that took 5-10 hours, like just straight up dedicated work. So yeah, it's a lot of work. And old articles on Spelunky for my old blog. This first one is about the original, and the next two are about the HD version. Talk about its design. Have cool little charts. Talked about my control scheme on the Wiimote that I used, and talked a lot about what it is and what it could be, and then followed up with it many years later when the HD version came out. Ooh,
well,
such
I will say though, if you hang around and do the work in the meantime, our day one this past week, where we found examples for the Proc-Gen scale, that probably would have been at least 3 days or an entire week previously. But we're used to doing it. We bang that out in a day.
mhm.
So maybe our ultimate analysis feel like it can happen in the future. We'll be able to basically bang out this base level kind of Spelunky uh, knowledge in maybe a couple days, and then the rest of the 3 days we can get to the analysis, or we could just use what we used today, right? Refer back to the chart, refer back to our examples, like, oh yeah, we already did this work, and then get on to the analysis. But yep, stick with me, and we'll never go hungry again. Anyway,
Oh no. Get him! Yeah, that was cool. Okay.
oh nice.
Yeah! Did the thing I said you could do. Give me the paste! Oh, you have to wiggle it out first? Give me the paste. Okay, so now I have bombs. They're dangerous! See, now that bat's stuck, but the spider isn't. Whoa, what the? Man, your spacing is incredible. So I have one heart left. Alright. So what? So this is, you can see like a lot of specific things happening. See how I'm staying in place more and looking at the stuff and having more of a complex plan to deal with it. That comes with level design, and that's also a thing that allows you to engage with the space more. Spelunky naturally runs through the spaces really fast, and he also ignores them. So like you bomb through stuff instead of dealing with stuff, right? And even though bombs are a resource, I get it. They're still kind of destroying what little level design they're actually. Ooh, I did not think that was gonna happen. But yeah, I also love the idea of using these as a platforming element.
We have a comment from a chat member.
Go
It
ahead.
says, "Oh no, where is the crouch slash spike challenge? I love that one."
I'll show it in a second. So then like and you just jump and you're like and you try to get to the side. That's exactly the kind of moment I wanted. And then you can just like pick this up. And this is something I learned recently, that the webbing makes you go slowly enough to land on spikes. So you're really not in as much danger as you think, which is really cool. So that means if you learn that there for whatever reason, you can do this. I keep holding the wrong run button. See, it's not the easiest thing either. It's easy. Let's see if it just kills me. This might kill me. I think it might kill me. Also, you could have a cool level where oh, she's still alive. And that's what's... Oh, no. I did not anticipate that. Oh, that's cool. That is cool. I did not anticipate that.
Wish she stole that glove for you.
think I can hit him and get out? Well, so apparently if you put spiders in a very tight space, they die instantly. But for a moment there, you guys were scared.
You didn't know that.
I did when I was playing this guy down here. Like, you can just whip him and he dies, but that's hilarious. So the cool part is, like, no, you pushed your thingy in the corner. You're like, you need bombs to get it if you take the, oh, I don't have any bombs. That's not cool at all. But yeah, this has a circular design right here. So you go out, you come back in. Let's see if I can get some more bombs from the ropes that I have. I don't think I can, actually. Oh, if you're on ropes, you can climb easily out of nets with no problem. It's interesting how one-way hallways are created just like that. That's okay. Let me show you guys real quick. So this was me experimenting with a lot of this to find out new things that I never knew, just because the game, it's randomly generated as it is, it actually doesn't cover that many different combinations. And my biggest gripe with this is so funny. If you stand up, you get hit, but if you crouch, they die first. That's so cool. Or you can do this. Just run through the whole thing. Almost died. I should have died. Can you memorize the pattern? No. I didn't. But yeah, one of my gripes with Spelunky is that for all the reasons why people love Proc-Gen, I think most of the reasons are very flimsy. The fact that it's different every time, well, not really, right? If I could play a single Mario level for longer than like a randomly generated world in Spelunky and get more out of it, right? And the reason is because when you keep digging into precisely, or the more you dig into like deep level design and precisely designed levels, the more it shows you like, yes, we know you can do this. Yes, we acknowledge your skills here. Yes, you found some cool new things because you were able to do it. Or yes, we thought of that and we got your back. Like all these very specific ways that design can make the cool things highlighted and pronounced, and also take away the sort of negative experience things away from the possibilities. Design, good design and great design does that increasingly more precise. So like mastering the spacing of the tail in Mario Brothers is a thing that I'll do over 20 years of my life in Bros 3 or the Cape and World, because the level design oftentimes creates situations where knowing the difference in those pixels and the tiny little timing differences and the everything like matters, right? And the game gets that tight. And the game allows you to play that tight because there's a lot more that it does with Mario's level design based on principle, to where they want to make everything both fair and make the player informed of what they can do. So they put enemies, they spawn when you get close. Hazards enemies reveal their hazards before you have a chance to accidentally fall on them. Um, uh, Mario can jump like further than half the screen length. So when you're scrolling and the camera's either slightly before or behind you, you can make just about every jump. Like all these little things that make the game super interesting to play, because it allows the game to reliably push the player into higher levels of skill, competency, and do more precise things with the ideas that it's trying to do. You can't do that in Spelunky. And Spelunky, let me type in no temp to no temp. In Spelunky, a lot of times you're just dealing with empty, pointless arrangements of levels. People go, "Why would that be there? That's funny. I'm not going over there. That's stupid. There's nothing over there." And then that's just like the constant background noise of the entire experience. And people know it too. You see like a random like single gold around all these hazards, you're like, that is not a good balance of risk reward. Who would possibly do that? Especially in a game so dangerous, nobody does it unless you're like really good. Doesn't matter. So yeah, not only do you not get that many ideas from the procedural generation here, but they're muddied and it's just mixed in with a lot of just junk, right? If you listen to a really well designed classical song, if you look at art when it's at its most tight and efficient, it's like every ounce, every instant of it is so well tuned and clearly communicates and interesting and exciting. It's kind of like it's overwhelming. It's like stupid. You're choking on their good design. But then you play something that's like watered down. You're like, like there's a whole section of this level that I don't even think about, or it's just not that stimulating. And that's kind of the difference between having good taste and just like liking whatever. The cool part about Spelunky is like, oh, it's different every time. It's got an element of danger, um, and you're supposed to use your you keep your wits about you, and you can get pretty far when otherwise dying is a reset of the whole thing. Like that's still pretty cool. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing that gets kind of tricky is people say, "Oh, you just memorize normal levels when they're handcrafted, and you do the same thing over and over." Well, no one's forcing you to do the same thing over and over. And my argument is, procedurally generated games like Spelunky actually force you to engage on a lower level of skill, therefore a lower variety of uh, strategies and interesting things you can do to overcome the level because it's not tuned well. The game's so dangerous. People who play this game well, after they're after the point where they're a very beginner, when they're just learning to play the game and getting good, they learn that having fun kills you. Marcus, you wrote it yourself. I tried to have fun, I died. Now that happens a lot in Mario, but there's a big difference in how Spelunky does it. One, you'll probably never experience that setup again. Two, that means you probably won't be able to learn from your mistakes. Three, even if you did get back to a setup like that, it'd be so far from when you started, right? Especially if you're talking about jungle, ice caves, and beyond. Like takes so long to get back there that again, the longer the distance between trials when you're learning through trial and error, the more difficult it is to learn, unnecessarily difficult, right? So I don't think that it's a good thing at all. Um, but yeah, so you learn to play Speedlunky by being very cautious. You take everything one screen at a time. You look before you leap. You trigger every arrow trap that you can, like as safely as possible. You cheese every enemy. And you're like, that is not much, right? You do that across the whole game. You realize you're just playing the same tiny little micro strategies over and over. Is it clear? Yeah. Move forward. Look. Is it clear? Yeah. Move forward. Look. Is there an enemy? Yeah. Cheese it. Wait. Wait. Cheese it. And you're like, well, that's not how you have to play, but that's the vast majority of being successful in Speedlunky before you get to some real upper tier level of skill. So, like, I don't think that's good gameplay. I think it's annoying, and everyone feels that annoyance, right? People, when they play this game and they don't quite know what to expect, they're like, I hate this game. Yeah, sure, people say I hate this game all the time, but really, there's something there when you feel like the game is working against your ability to even learn it, to get good, to understand what happened, and all these other things that video games with other structures have done so naturally. Like this game just rips that away, and so you don't get that much variety level design wise, right? You get a lot of noise inside of the few little things it does, and you don't get a lot of repetition, so you can't dig into it, right? So if you think you can listen to the world's greatest poems or watch the world's greatest movies or just good shows in general once and then get everything, you can't. Like that's just not how it works. You constantly are rewatching and rereading and getting more and more out of it. Can't do that in Spelunky. You're actually just stuck taking your tiny little collection of heuristics. That's why we did this whole thing in the chat. Like we wanted everyone to tell us every single tip they have, and then realize that when we collect them all, it's really not that much compared to playing a single level in a game like Mario. The specifics and the precision of the level design and handcrafted levels breeds increasingly specific strategies, counter strategies, heuristics, all those kinds of things. If you go general like Speed Monkey, all you have is just general mush, right? And the fact that people have such a hard time remembering and identifying sections in Spelunky, one, they're out of practice, but two, it's because there's not a lot memorable here. Like the randomness is noise. It is noise. You're taking like Perlin noise or whatever they use to generate the randomness and kind of visualizing it and then forcing you to play it. So your brain just goes, that's nonsense. That means nothing. Ooh, that's interesting. I can ignore that. And you kind of play the game that way, right? Like, that's not a lot to love, right? I don't think it, I think Spelunky is a great example of a game who put in a lot of other elements of design to make the whole experience pretty great. But the fact that Proc Gen spawned a whole following, a whole genre, like a whole these different games means that people, one, don't know what good game design and good level design is in the first place. Two, they're kind of selling out because a lot of them kind of admit like, oh, I can't generate these many levels, but I did an algorithm that could do it. Now you get to play it. Like if you don't want to take the time to give me your best, then why would I want to pay your randomized, general, noisy mediocreness, right? Like that's how I feel. I'd rather play an amazing level and play it for hours and hours and hours and hours versus just a bunch of noise where you're just like rolling eyes, right? The way that people express their skill is using a whole history of their heuristics, a whole history of their tips, tricks, knowledge, ways of thinking, ways of learning, and then applying it to new things so that their unique way of being is reflected in their unique way of additional learning. But if you make a game to where you cannot learn deeply and there's nothing to learn deeply, there's nothing stable past like tiny little bits of um, encounters and strategies and heuristics, then you're actually making everyone play the same. You're actually making everyone be the same, and that's what we call a low skill ceiling. And that's it's fine. A lot of simple games have low skill ceilings, right? Little riddles, little puzzles, music rhythm games. They're linear. Like, fine, we get it. There's nothing wrong with clapping to the beat. It's cool. But when we're talking about the range of expressive experiences and ideas that platformer games have delivered since Super Mario Brothers, we're really taking a step back here. Like it's really just I feel like I give Spelunky a lot of novelty points for being the first and doing it the best. That's double thumbs up. But everyone else just kind of watering themselves down for no reason, right? They should study. And if they even study Spelunky, there's more for them to learn here, and then there's more for them to learn even beyond that. Because when you make a proc gen system, it's got to be worse than your best handcrafted level. It just has to be, right? Because everything you saw me doing in this level, where I'm like, ooh, this one gold's off. Ooh, I don't think this spider web needs to be here. Like this one's one too many. Like I'm making decisions, and each of those decisions are coming from a long history of all kinds of things: aesthetic principles, asymmetry, negative space, gameplay strategies, just color. Like I don't want this many white blobs on the screen. Like all these different things, right? Your computer won't be able to do that. Your algorithm's gonna barely be able to function as making a functional level, let alone have any artistic oversight. Like that's just how it's gonna be. It's gonna be a weaker version of yourself, and then you're gonna generate hundreds of those levels and sell them to me. Nah, no thanks. Um, so that's usually how I think about procedural generation. Um, I think it's an incredible tool because and the reason why it's an incredible tool, as we saw with the Spectrum, there's a lot of different ways you can create that effect of having varied gameplay, having unpredictable situations, and still make your games deep. I mean, freaking Mario was on the level one of our list with a few tweaks here and there. It could be level two, level three, easy. Like, there's still a lot to be done there. People made Mario Maker levels with pseudo randomizers, and it's a very similar effect. There's a lot you can do there. Layered design also brings a lot of depth in a very compact space. There's a lot you can do there. But so that means at every turn, figuring out where you want to apply procedural generation, what it's good for, and how you want to use it. There's a lot of pros and cons, right? And I just kind of wanted people to be a little bit more aware of what we lose when we just scramble the screen like this, and then especially when it's just so telling that Proc Gen came from the roguelike genre, right? Permadeath mixed up with this, like you could have just Proc Gen me a level and had me play around in it, right? Like you generate it, you save it, and then you let me play around with it. Like every course in Spelunky could be the same Proc Gen level, which is what I'll show you now. So I have this seed lunky, right? It should be the same seed. 6685 668580. This should be the same seed. It should be. Oh, I have a bomb in my hand. Didn't mean to hit that. So this could have been Spelunky. You generated a level, and then the player kind of learns it over time, understands it, plays it, and then every time they die and come back to it, they're still playing this level, right? So they can master it, stuff like that, and get better. And then they could generate a whole, 16 course game. Eh, missed. And then they could just generate another one. And then maybe the point would still be beat the game without dying, which then it would be just like Spelunky we have now, but you would give people ways to learn it, ways to get used to it, ways to potentially fine-tune some of the there's spikes on the left side here. I get hit by the guy every time. So here's the level that should be the seed that I remixed. You'll see right here. Yay, it's the level. They start you up here. You get one of these. Grab some ropes. There was a collie thing there? Interesting. Oh, I don't get collie in the level editor, so I couldn't put that in. Alright, there's the spider. We can say, hey, Mr. Spider. Not good. Well, I'm hurt. I hate it. The hitboxes on that are really bad too. Like the spider jumps into you, you're bouncing on top, but it just hurts you anyway. You're like, that was 2 hearts. Ah! It doesn't matter. You saw this formation, right? You see how like the best way to take out these bats is usually just to kind of wait because there's not much else to this section. You got to take it one by one. The webbing in my remix allows you to play that a little bit more like a platformer. And like you're kind of just taking things one by one here, nothing special. All the enemies are kind of individualized. And oh, you can see up here too, like no danger down there. So you're like, whatever. You look up here, there's no gold in the top right. Then like, why would I ever go there? You look over here above Cali. What's up there? 3 gold, not worth the rope. And you start just ignoring all this stuff. I'll show you. So I put bats up here, and then I put webbing up here, and then I put a reason to go up there, and it just makes more and more sense because that's what design is. I see something, I highlight what's a specific aspect of it through design. I pay attention to the principles and the rules, and I make it happen. You can see here I expanded the see there's spikes down here, but I just know to go left. That's because I played this seed before. That's what's kind of neat about it. Yeah, the game could have been this, right? Or they could have had an easy mode that was this, right? But like, no, the allure of roguelikes, they're so hard. We got to make sure everyone's hard. It's hard, hard, hard. Not worth it. I don't even know how to buy stuff. I'm not even going to try it. Like, or you could have taught people how to play, and then they could have played better. And then they could have played even better and enjoyed more of what the game has to offer. Because most people didn't get very far with this game. Like, they probably stopped it around the jungle and then gave up everything. So, help them out. Oh! No reason to go down there, no reason to set that thing off. Unless you really want to bomb down through this thing for no reason, right? Look, there's nothing down there. No reason. No reason for all of this. It's just a blank area. Oh! Boy, that was close. No reason to go down there. If they put the chest in one of those side areas, that would have made more sense. But it'll never happen. It may randomly happen. Oh, arrow trap. Nothing over here, nothing dangerous, which is not bad. You don't have to have something dangerous everywhere, but there's also like no idea here other than, look, it's a cave. Like, I know I'm in a cave. Maybe this pot's gonna be dangerous. Yep. Yep, I'm in trouble. random snake movement. Random, random, random. And then you start evaluating risk. You're like, now it's just not worth exploring any of this stuff. I donated nothing, even though I'm dead. I hate how they jump before you get close. Like, you didn't see me. Missed. I like how the trees you can always climb without a climbing glove. This is not worth it. This will do nothing. Yes, it's worth it. Cool. The 360 controller is so bad with the D-pad. So bad. Just hold down. If you teeter too long, he just throws his stuff. Kill me. So that's it. That's it. The reason why we called the whole segment Generation Z is because, it's a funny take on, like, well, maybe the younger generation, they don't know what they're missing. Maybe they grew up on a lot of games that copied a lot of games that copied a lot of games, and they don't know what was core, what made the original game special, and what the other games are chasing. Maybe they're so young that they don't know what they're missing, and thus Generation Z, Proc-Generation Z kind of a thing. That's all. So I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned something. And the next topic of the week will be revealed tomorrow. So join us on our Discord at designoriented.net. If there's any questions, please let me know if there's anything out there. Visit our website, designoriented.net. You can find all of our links, all the projects that we do, all the Twitch thingies that we do, and these videos will eventually make it to YouTube. And our Discord community, drop us a line, come say hi. We do this kind of stuff every week, all the time. So until then, Marcus, if you're still here,
see ya, everybody.
Later.
Okay, bye.
I'm Hayden. Bye.
Bye.